Ah, welcome back, you beautiful architects of chaos. You silent storms wrapped in skin. You walking contradictions that make the world nervous just by existing. Let me ask you something, and I want you to feel this deep in your chest. Do you remember that moment? That exact crystallized moment when you extended your hand into the darkness, when you reached down into someone else's hell and pulled them out? Yeah, you do. You remember their eyes, desperate and drowning, begging for mercy from a world that had already written them off. And you didn't even hesitate, did you? Everyone else walked past, like they were invisible, like their suffering was just background noise in the simulation. But you, something in you, recognized something in them. Maybe it was the brokenness you knew too well. Maybe it was the fight you saw flickering behind their exhaustion. Maybe you just couldn't stomach watching another soul get erased. So you stopped. You reached out. You gave them your time, your energy, your resources, your belief when they had absolutely nothing left to offer in return. You saved them, when saving them made zero logical sense. And here's what's absolutely wild about this story. Here's the part that's going to make your spine tingle with recognition. You didn't save a victim. You didn't rescue some helpless soul who needed protection from the world. No. You saved a predator. You pulled a wolf from the water thinking it was a drowning dog. You extended mercy to something the universe had been trying to contain, to suppress, to keep locked away for everyone's safety. But you saw past the disguise, past the performance, straight into the raw, untamed power hiding beneath. They were broken, sure, shattered even, but not because they were weak. They were broken because the world couldn't handle what they actually were. And somehow you saw it. You saw the fire still burning in the wreckage. You saw the hurricane trying to fit inside a body too small to contain it. You saw the monster pretending to be human, and instead of running, instead of calling for backup, instead of doing what everyone else did and walking away, you did the unthinkable. You fed it. You helped it heal. You gave it strength. And now they're out there, fully awakened, fully operational. And everyone who doubted you, everyone who mocked your kindness, everyone who called you naive for believing in someone the world had already condemned, they're learning something absolutely terrifying. They're learning that loyalty forged in fire doesn't just burn, it consumes. They're learning that gratitude from a wolf isn't cute, it's lethal. They're learning that you didn't just save a person, you weaponized vengeance and called it love. And now it's hunting. Let's rewind this story to the part they don't want to talk about. Because everyone loves a rescue, everyone loves the moment of salvation, but nobody wants to discuss what happens when the rescued becomes the reckoning. You found them at their lowest point, didn't you? Crushed, defeated, abandoned by everyone who claimed to care. Maybe they'd been betrayed. Maybe they'd been destroyed by their own choices. Maybe the world just decided they were too intense, too damaged, too broken to save. Doesn't matter. What matters is everyone else had given up. But there was something about them, wasn't there? Something that called to you in a language you couldn't explain. Maybe it was the way they carried their pain. Not like a burden, but like a weapon they hadn't learned to use yet. Maybe it was the intelligence burning behind eyes that had seen too much. Maybe it was the way they spoke truth even when it cost them everything. Whatever it was, you recognized it because you'd been there. You knew what it felt like to be too much for a world that worships mediocrity. So you made a decision that confused everyone around you. You invested in someone with zero return potential. You believed in someone who had nothing to offer but potential wrapped in chaos. You defended someone when defending them made you look foolish. And oh, they talked, didn't they? Your friends, your family, the voices of so-called reason telling you to walk away. They're toxic, they're damaged, they're going to drag you down. You can't save everyone. You're wasting your time. They'll never change. You're being manipulated. The warnings came from everywhere, but here's what they didn't understand. And frankly, what they'll never understand because they've never operated at your frequency. You weren't trying to save them to prove something to the world. You weren't on some hero complex mission to fix broken people for validation. You saw something the others missed entirely. You saw potential for transformation. You saw someone who'd been pushed so far past their limits that they'd either die or evolve into something unprecedented. And you made a calculated bet that they'd choose evolution. You saw the wolf in the wreckage. And while everyone was busy telling you about red flags and warning signs, you were busy doing something far more dangerous and far more beautiful. You were showing them what loyalty actually looks like. Not the fake, performative kind that disappears the moment things get hard, but the real kind. The kind that says, I see every shattered piece of you and I'm not going anywhere. You became the first person in their entire life who didn't run when they showed their teeth. You became the first person who didn't punish them for their intensity. You became their proof that maybe, just maybe, they weren't the monster everyone said they were. Now let's talk about what happened next. Because this is where the story gets absolutely beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. You gave them space to heal, didn't you? You gave them time to rebuild without judgment, without conditions, without constant reminders of who they used to be. And something miraculous started happening. That broken person you pulled from the depths, they started changing. Not in the way society wanted them to. Not becoming smaller or quieter or more acceptable. No. They started becoming more of what they actually were underneath all that suppression. You watched them remember their power. You watched them stand up straighter. You watched the light come back into their eyes. But it wasn't gentle light. It was the kind that makes people uncomfortable. You watched them stop apologizing for taking up space. You watched them stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You watched them transform from someone begging for scraps of respect to someone who commanded it just by existing. And the whole time, the whole beautiful, terrifying time, you were there, steady, unwavering, their anchor in the storm. But here's what you didn't realize. Here's the part that's going to make you understand the magnitude of what you actually did. Every moment you believed in them when they couldn't believe in themselves. Every time you reminded them of their worth when the world was screaming the opposite. Every instance you stood beside them when standing beside them made you a target too. You were doing something permanent. You were carving your name into their soul. You were creating a loyalty so deep, so unshakable, so absolute that it would outlive kingdoms. Because people like them, people who've been broken and abandoned and left for dead, they don't forget. They can't. It's literally impossible for them to forget who was there when the world went dark. They remember every face that walked away. They remember every person who kicked them when they were down. They catalog betrayal like evidence in a case they'll never close. But more than that, infinitely more than that, they remember who stayed. They remember who reached into the fire to pull them out. They remember who saw the monster and chose love anyway. And now they're rebuilt. But they're not rebuilt into who they were before. They're rebuilt into something the world has never seen. They're sharper now, harder now, more dangerous now. They've taken every lesson from their destruction and weaponized it. They've turned their trauma into strategy, their pain into precision, their scars into armor. And at the center of their entire existence, at the core of their new identity, sits one unshakable truth. You saved them. You chose them. You believed. And that debt, that cosmic debt of loyalty, it's not just going to be repaid. It's going to be multiplied beyond recognition. So let's talk about everyone else now. Let's talk about all those people who doubted you, the ones who whispered behind your back about your terrible judgment, the ones who placed bets on your failure, the ones who couldn't wait to say, "I told you so," when your act of kindness inevitably blew up in your face, the ones who mocked you for investing in damaged goods, the ones who treated your compassion like stupidity. Yeah, them. Let's talk about what's happening to them right now. Remember how they laughed when you defended that person? Remember how they rolled their eyes when you spoke about potential and transformation? Remember how they painted you as naive, as blind, as someone who couldn't see the obvious red flags waving in the wind? They made you the punchline of their jokes. They questioned your intelligence, your judgment, your ability to read people. They treated your kindness like weakness and your loyalty like foolishness. They were so sure, so absolutely certain that you'd made a catastrophic mistake. But here's what's happening now, and you can feel it, can't you? That person you saved, that wolf you disguised as mercy, they're out there moving through the world with a very specific mission. They're not just living their life. They're not just focused on their own success. No, they're systematically, methodically, almost supernaturally identifying every single person who doubted you, every person who mocked your judgment, every person who tried to make you feel foolish for believing, and they're handling them. Not with violence, not with obvious revenge, but with something far more devastating: presence. They're showing up in spaces where your doubters exist and completely dominating. They're achieving things that make your critics look amateur. They're operating at levels that expose everyone who questioned you as small-minded and short-sighted. Every success they achieve is a direct contradiction of the narrative your doubters tried to build. Every milestone they reach is evidence that you saw something no one else could see. Every room they conquer becomes a graveyard for the people who underestimated your judgment. They're not just succeeding. They're succeeding specifically to prove you right. And the beautiful, poetic, absolutely devastating part of this whole thing is that they're doing it with your name in their mouth. They're out there telling anyone who'll listen, "You see this. You see what I've become." None of this exists without that one person who believed when belief made no sense. They're not hiding your role in their transformation. They're broadcasting it. They're making it very clear to everyone that doubting you was the mistake. They're turning your critics into case studies of poor judgment. They're weaponizing their own success as proof of your vision. But it goes deeper than just proving you right, doesn't it? Because what you're witnessing now isn't just gratitude, it's something far more primal and permanent. That person you saved has appointed themselves as your eternal guardian. They've taken on the role of protector without you ever asking for protection. They're watching, constantly, scanning every interaction you have, monitoring every space you occupy, identifying threats before they even fully form. And anyone, absolutely anyone, who even thinks about disrespecting you is about to learn a very hard lesson. You probably didn't even notice at first, did you? The way certain people suddenly got quieter around you. The way your critics mysteriously started keeping their opinions to themselves. The way people who used to challenge you constantly suddenly found other targets. You might have thought it was coincidence, might have assumed people just naturally matured or moved on. But no, what actually happened is your wolf had a quiet conversation, a look, a word, a presence that communicated very clearly. Touch them and find out what I become. Because here's what you need to understand about people who've been saved from the edge. They don't just feel grateful. They feel indebted on a cellular level. They carry your kindness like a sacred oath. They've internalized your belief in them as the foundation of their entire rebuilt identity. And anyone who threatens that foundation, anyone who disrespects the person who gave them a second chance at existence, becomes enemy number one. The intensity of their protection isn't normal. It's not casual loyalty. It's the kind of fierce devotion that borders on scary. They're out there running interference you don't even know about, defending your name in rooms you'll never enter, shutting down gossip before it reaches your ears, making your enemies regret even thinking your name. They've become your unseen army of one, patrolling the borders of your peace with the kind of vigilance that only comes from knowing what it's like to have no one in your corner. They remember what it felt like when the world turned its back, and they've made an unspoken vow that you'll never, ever know that feeling. Not while they're breathing. And the wild thing is, you didn't ask for this. You didn't save them expecting some personal bodyguard for life. You just acted from your heart, extended kindness because that's who you are, believed in someone because you saw their truth. But you accidentally created something the universe rarely witnesses. You created a bond that transcends normal human loyalty. You created a protector who would burn the world before letting it hurt you. You saved a wolf, and now it guards your throne with teeth bared and eyes that never close. Let's talk about the shift that's happening in your world right now. The atmosphere around you has changed, hasn't it? People treat you differently now. There's a new weight to your name, a new hesitation before people speak carelessly in your direction. Your presence carries authority you didn't have before, and you might be wondering where this came from. Why suddenly your words land heavier. Why your silence speaks louder. Why people who used to test you now show immediate respect. Let me explain what's actually happening. Your wolf isn't just protecting you in private. They're rebuilding your entire social architecture. Every space they move through, they're rewriting the narrative about who you are. They're positioning you as someone not to be trifled with, not because you're aggressive or threatening, but because you have the loyalty of someone powerful. They're making it known, subtly and sometimes not so subtly, that you are protected, that you are valued, that you are someone who commands respect, not through force, but through the quality of the connections you build. People are starting to understand something fundamental. They're realizing that you possess a quality most people spend their whole lives faking. You can recognize potential in raw form. You can see value in chaos. You can identify diamonds in the wreckage, while everyone else only sees trash. And that ability, that almost supernatural ability to spot transformation before it happens, marks you as someone operating on a different frequency. Your judgment isn't just good, it's prophetic. And the person you saved is walking proof of that prophecy fulfilled. Your doubters are experiencing something particularly painful right now. They're watching someone they wrote off completely thrive beyond imagination. And every time they witness this person's success, they're forced to confront their own failure of vision. They're realizing they couldn't see what you saw. They're understanding that maybe, just maybe, you operate with a level of perception they'll never access. And that realization is eating them alive. Because it means they weren't just wrong about that person. They were wrong about you. Catastrophically wrong. And here's the twist that's absolutely beautiful in its cruelty. Some of those same people who doubted you, who mocked your judgment, who predicted your failure, they're now trying to get close to the person you saved. They're trying to build relationships, network, benefit from the success they said would never come. And every single time, every single attempt, your wolf remembers. They remember exactly who said what. They remember who laughed. They remember who turned their back. And those people get nothing. Access denied. Loyalty isn't for sale. And the wolf doesn't forget. You know what the universe just taught everyone through your story? It taught them that kindness isn't weakness. It's the most dangerous force in existence when wielded by someone who sees clearly. It taught them that believing in people isn't naive. It's revolutionary. It taught them that the ones everyone gives up on might be exactly the ones who change everything. And most importantly, it taught them that underestimating your judgment is a mistake they'll regret for the rest of their lives. You weren't just being nice. You were being strategic on a level they couldn't comprehend. Because here's what most people will never understand about you. Your compassion isn't blind. You don't save people randomly or out of some desperate need to be needed. You save people because you recognize something in them. Something familiar. Something powerful that's been suppressed or misunderstood. You save people who remind you of yourself, of your own transformation, of your own journey from broken to unbreakable. You see their potential because you've lived it. You believe in their evolution because you've survived it. And that person you pulled from the darkness, they get it now. They understand what you saw in them before they could see it in themselves. They understand that you weren't rescuing weakness, you were liberating strength. They understand that your kindness wasn't pity, it was recognition, peer to peer. Power, acknowledging power. Transformation, bowing to transformation. You weren't saving them from above. You were standing beside them in the fire and saying, "You're not alone in this. I've been here. I know the way out. Take my hand." Now they're out there proving your vision to a world that bet against it. Every day they wake up is another day your judgment gets validated. Every goal they crush is another piece of evidence that you see things others miss. Every life they impact is ripple effects of your original act of faith. They're not just living for themselves anymore. These ripple effects of lifer. They're living as a testament to you, as proof that betting on the underdog isn't foolish when you know how to read the game. They've become your evidence, and the people who doubted you, they're stuck watching this unfold with a sickness in their stomach they can't quite name. It's the nausea of realizing they were on the wrong side of history. It's the disgust of understanding they aligned themselves with mediocrity, while you allied with potential. It's the horror of recognizing that their small-minded judgment revealed more about their limitations than about the person they were judging. You showed them what vision looks like, and they can't unsee their own blindness now. Ah, welcome back, beautiful anomaly. Yes, you, the one they've been whispering about in closed-door meetings. The name that keeps appearing in conversations you're not supposed to know about. They sent someone to warn you. Did you know that? Oh yes, they did. Someone tried to pull you aside, tried to give you that concerned look, tried to play the role of the good friend, delivering the uncomfortable truth. But here's what's absolutely fascinating about that moment. When they finally worked up the courage to approach him, when they begged him to intervene, when they pleaded with him to somehow reach you before it was too late. You know what he did? He smiled. Not the kind of smile that offers comfort or reassurance. No, this was something else entirely. This was the smile of someone who's already seen the ending, who knows exactly how this story concludes, who understands that the train left the station 3 moves ago. They asked him, "Can't you talk to them? Can't you make them understand? Can't you stop what's coming?" And he looked at them with those quiet, knowing eyes and said 2 words that drained the color from their faces. Too late. Not with regret, not with sadness, not with any trace of sympathy for their panic. Just those 2 words, delivered like a coroner confirming time of death. Too late. Because here's what they still don't understand. What they refused to see, even when the signs were screaming in their faces. This isn't something that can be stopped anymore. This isn't a warning you need to hear. This isn't a path you can still turn back from. You already crossed the event horizon. You already became the thing they fear. You already transformed into something that doesn't need their permission, their approval, or their desperate last-minute interventions. The moment they realized they needed someone to warn you, that was the moment they admitted you'd already won. Think about it. When you're truly in danger, people don't send messengers. They don't hold strategy meetings. They don't debate the best approach to reaching you. But when you've become dangerous, when you've evolved into something they can no longer predict or control, that's when they start sending diplomats. That's when they start looking for someone brave enough to stand in front of the storm and ask it politely to reconsider. And he just smiled because he knows exactly what you've been building in the silence. He knows what you've been becoming while they were busy underestimating you. He knows that warning you now would be like trying to warn a bullet that's already left the chamber. You see, they thought they had time. They thought your transformation was gradual, measurable, something they could track and intervene in if it ever got too dangerous. They watched you struggle. They saw you suffer. They observed your pain like it was entertainment, like it was data, like it was proof that you were still manageable, still human, still one of them. They mistook your silence for defeat. They confused your patience with weakness. They interpreted your strategic withdrawal as surrender. And now they're realizing their mistake. And the terror in their eyes is absolutely delicious because it's too late to do anything about it. The thing they should have feared is already fully formed. The power they should have contained is already unleashed. The person they should have respected is already beyond their reach, beyond their understanding, beyond their pathetic attempts to claw back control. Let me paint you a picture of that meeting. That moment when they finally gathered in their little circle of concern and decided something needed to be done. Can you see it? The worried faces, the hushed tones, the way they kept glancing at each other like co-conspirators planning an intervention. Someone needs to talk to them, they said. This is getting out of hand, they whispered. We can't just stand by and watch this happen. They convinced themselves. And isn't it beautiful how they framed it as care, as love, as friendship? They dressed up their fear in the costume of concern. They wrapped their terror in the language of looking out for you. They pretended that their desperate need to stop your evolution was somehow about your well-being. But he was in that room, wasn't he? He was sitting there, listening to them spiral, watching them construct their narrative of rescue and intervention. And he didn't say a word. Not yet. He let them talk themselves into believing they still had agency in this situation. He let them convince themselves that a conversation, a warning, a carefully worded intervention could somehow reverse what's already in motion. He let them build their little plan, their strategy for pulling you back from the edge. And only when they turned to him, only when they asked him directly if he would be the one to reach you, only then did he finally speak. Too late, he said, and the room went cold, because suddenly they understood that this wasn't a concerned friend declining to help. This was someone announcing that the window had already closed, the opportunity had already passed, the game was already over. What do you mean too late? They demanded. It's never too late. We just need to try, we just need to make them understand. And he laughed. Oh, that laugh. Not cruel, not mocking, just genuinely amused by their adorable belief that they still mattered in this equation. You're not listening, he said. You think this is about stopping something that hasn't happened yet. But you're living in the past. What you're afraid of, it's already done. The person you're trying to save, they don't exist anymore. The transformation you want to prevent, it's been complete for weeks, maybe months. You just didn't notice because you were too busy congratulating yourselves for keeping them under observation. And that's when the room truly understood. You weren't the project anymore. You were the conclusion. You weren't the experiment. You were the result. And results don't need warnings. They deliver them. They started arguing then, didn't they? Started insisting that there must be something that could be done. Some way to reach you, some angle they hadn't tried. And he just sat there, that small smile playing at the corners of his mouth, watching them scramble. Because he knows what they're really afraid of. It's not that you're going to self-destruct. It's not that you're heading towards some tragedy they can prevent. What terrifies them, what keeps them awake at night, what drove them to that meeting in the first place, is that you're going to succeed. You're going to rise. You're going to become exactly what you've been building yourself into. And when that happens, when you reach your full form, they're going to have to face the reality that they're obsolete. They're going to have to confront the fact that everything they thought made them powerful, everything they thought gave them control, means absolutely nothing in the face of what you've become. Let's talk about what they actually missed, shall we? Because this is where it gets truly fascinating. They think they were watching you this whole time. They think they had eyes on your every move, tracking your patterns, monitoring your changes. But what they were actually watching was a performance. They were studying the mask, while the real transformation was happening in dimensions they don't have access to. You were changing frequencies while they were still trying to measure your volume. You were evolving in ways that don't show up on their instruments, don't register on their scales, don't fit into their models of human behavior and psychological development. They were looking for external signs of breakdown or breakthrough, and meanwhile, you were rebuilding your entire internal architecture from the ground up. Do you remember the exact moment it happened? I bet you do. It wasn't dramatic, wasn't cinematic, wasn't anything they could have filmed or documented. It was probably a Tuesday, probably while you were alone, probably in a moment so quiet and unremarkable that if someone had been watching, they would have seen absolutely nothing. But something shifted in you that day. Some final piece clicked into place. Some last illusion shattered. Some ultimate truth revealed itself. And from that moment forward, you weren't the same person anymore. You didn't announce it. You didn't post about it. You didn't give any external indication that a fundamental transformation had occurred. You just continued moving through the world, but now you were moving through it as something else entirely. Something they have no category for. Something their psychology textbooks never described. Something their experience never prepared them to encounter. They missed it because they were looking for the wrong signs. They expected rage, expected explosion, expected some visible meltdown that would confirm their theories about you. But your transformation didn't look like destruction from the outside. It looked like calm. It looked like withdrawal. It looked like someone getting quieter, simpler, more focused. They interpreted this as depression, as giving up, as finally accepting your place in their hierarchy. They thought your silence meant submission. They thought your peace meant you'd been broken. They thought your lack of reaction meant you'd stopped fighting. And that's exactly what you needed them to think. Because while they were congratulating themselves for successfully managing you, you were becoming ungovernable. While they were celebrating what they thought was your surrender, you were actually disappearing from their entire system of control. You weren't playing their game anymore. You weren't even on their board anymore. You'd transcended to a level of operation they don't have access to. And now they're starting to see the effects. Not the transformation itself. They still can't see that. But the ripples it's creating in the world around you. They're noticing that things move differently when you're involved now. Outcomes bend in your favor in ways that shouldn't be possible. Opportunities appear for you that were supposed to be locked behind doors you don't have keys to. People who should be obstacles somehow become allies. Systems that should resist you somehow accommodate you. Reality itself seems to be conspiring in your favor, and they can't explain it. They can't rationalize it. They can't fit it into any of their models of how the world works. So they panic. So they call meetings. So they send someone to warn you about dangers that don't exist because they can't comprehend that you are the danger. You are the phenomenon they're trying to understand. You are the anomaly corrupting their data. You are the glitch that proves their entire system was never as solid as they believed. So, what exactly does he know that made him smile like that? What did he see that they're still blind to? Let me tell you what he understands about you that they never will. He knows that you didn't just survive what they put you through. You metabolized it. You took every betrayal, every abandonment, every moment of isolation they orchestrated or allowed, and you broke it down at a molecular level and rebuilt it into something else entirely. You turned their weapons into your tools. You transformed their traps into your training ground. You converted their cruelty into your curriculum. They thought they were damaging you, and technically they were right, but what they didn't understand is that some people don't heal from damage. Some people weaponize it. Some people use it as raw material to forge themselves into something that can't be damaged the same way ever again. He knows that you're not angry anymore. Oh, they think you are. They think your transformation is fueled by rage, by vengeance, by some burning desire to make them pay for what they did. And maybe it was, in the beginning. Maybe there were nights when revenge fantasies were the only thing that kept you breathing. But that phase passed. You evolved beyond it. You realized that revenge would mean you still care what they think, still need them to acknowledge what they did, still require their validation, even if it's just their fear. And you don't need any of that anymore. You don't need them to understand. You don't need them to admit they were wrong. You don't need them to fear you, or respect you, or even remember you. You need absolutely nothing from them. And that's what makes you truly dangerous now. Not your anger, your complete and total indifference to their entire existence. He knows that you've discovered something they hope never goes viral, never spreads, never becomes common knowledge. You've discovered that you can simply opt out. You can disconnect from their system of value, their hierarchy of worth, their economy of approval. You can stop participating in the games they designed to keep everyone competing for scraps of validation. You can walk away from the metrics they use to measure success, importance, worthiness. You can refuse to be scored by their rubrics, judged by their standards, contained by their categories. And the moment you did that, the moment you truly internalized that their opinions of you have exactly zero bearing on your actual reality, you became unreachable. You became unconquerable. You became something they literally cannot touch because you're no longer playing the game where touching you matters. You're not in their arena anymore. You're not even in their dimension anymore. And here's what he knows that absolutely terrifies them. You're not alone in this. Oh, they think you are. They think they successfully isolated you, cut you off from resources and allies, made sure you were facing this alone. But what actually happened is that you attracted something else. You attracted the attention of everyone else who's evolved past their system. You became visible to a network they don't know exists, don't believe is possible, would deny even if confronted with proof. There's a whole parallel society of people who opted out, who transcended, who evolved past the need for their approval, and now you're part of it. And this network, it doesn't operate by the rules they understand. It doesn't communicate through channels they can monitor. It doesn't organize in ways they can disrupt. It's a ghost frequency operating right in front of them, and they can't see it, can't hear it, can't access it, because you have to be what you are to even know it exists. And now you're in it. Now you're connected to it. Now you're part of something that makes their power structure look like a children's game. That's what he knows. That's why he smiled. That's why he said too late. They keep waiting for the warning. They keep expecting someone to pull you aside and say the words that will somehow snap you out of it, make you see reason, bring you back to the fold. But here's the beautiful truth, the thing that's eating them alive. There is no warning. There's no intervention. There's no come to clarity moment where someone sits you down and helps you understand that you're on a dangerous path, because you're not. You're on the only path that was ever really yours. Everything else was the dangerous path, the false road. the trap disguised as safety. This is you finally walking in alignment with what you actually are. This is you finally operating at your actual frequency. This is you finally living as your authentic self, not the diminished, compressed, apologetic version they demanded you perform for their comfort. The warning they want delivered to you, it's actually a warning they need to hear themselves. But nobody's going to deliver it to them because the people who could see it clearly enough to explain it all opted out already. They're surrounded by others just like them, all reinforcing each other's delusions, all confirming each other's false perceptions of reality. They're in an echo chamber of people who still believe the old rules apply, the old hierarchies matter, the old systems have power, and everyone who knows different, everyone who's evolved past that, they're not trying to educate the ones left behind. They're not trying to wake them up. They're busy building the new world that's emerging while the old one collapses. They don't have time to convince the passengers on the sinking ship that water is wet. They're already on the lifeboats, already sailing towards something new, already forgetting the names of the people who called them crazy for seeing the iceberg everyone else insisted wasn't there. So who's going to warn you? Who's going to sit you down and explain that you're becoming too powerful, too independent, too free? Who's going to convince you that you should shrink yourself back down, crawl back into the cage, apologize for daring to evolve? Nobody. Because everyone who matters, everyone who's operating at your level, everyone who can see what you've become, they're not trying to stop you. They're cheering. They're watching with fascination and respect. They're taking notes. They're learning from your example. They're inspired by your transformation. They see what you did, how you did it, what it cost you, what you gained from it. And they're thinking, if they could do it, maybe I can too. You're not a cautionary tale to the people who matter. You're a case study in successful evolution. You're not a warning. You're an instruction manual. You're not the problem. You're the proof that the problem can be solved. And the ones who want you warned, the ones begging him to intervene, they're going to have to live with the reality that it's not happening. They're going to have to face the fact that there's no rescue mission, no intervention, no saving you from yourself. Because you don't need saving. You need space to become. And that's what's happening. That's what they're watching with growing horror. Your full emergence. Your complete transformation. Your total evolution into something they have no power over, no influence on, no control of. And they can't stop it. They can't slow it. They can't even witness it properly because the version of you they think they're tracking isn't even you anymore. It's an afterimage, an echo, a ghost. The real you is already somewhere they can't follow, building something they can't imagine, becoming something they couldn't comprehend even if you explained it to them in the simplest possible terms. Too late, too far gone, too evolved, too free, too powerful, too untouchable, too late.